This is the Tech Support Guy Show, episode 54, for Sunday, April 15th, 2012. Watercooling with Earwax. Welcome to the Tech Support Guy Show. I'm Mike Cermak, known on the site as Tech Guy. And with me today, I should have had your camera button ready here. Here it is. With me today is Jacob Mueller. Hey, Jake. Are you going to speak to us through sign language?
Yes, sir.
That would be well. Now you just didn't. You ruined it right there. That would be kind of cool, though, if you knew sign language. I was at a big event here recently, and they had a sign language person up, next to the stage, and it was very distracting for me. I mean, I certainly had no problem with them doing it, but I wanted to watch and try and learn sign language, but it didn't work out very well. I think that at parts of it, she was just making it up.
It's like when you see closed captioning. You can't ever pay attention to the screen. You have to read the closed captioning.
Yeah, that's exactly it, yeah. And if there's Braille on the walls, I have to run my fingers across it, that kind of thing.
I've always wondered about that. Like, feel bad for anybody that's blind, but if there's Braille on a sign, how can they find that sign?
It's got to be hard, right? Well, there are, I can tell you from a little bit of experience from the buildings that I have in Hagerstown that, they have to be in certain positions and on the particular side of the door and it's between a certain height and all those sort of things. But still, that's a lot of wall to cover with your fingers to try and read it. Anyhow. So, that'd be an interesting topic another time is some of the technology that's available for blind people. I've got an eye problem in my family. I don't know if you knew that, Jake, but I've had like 4 detached retinas and my brother has, and we have a genetic problem that runs through it. I had an uncle who's blind and my grandmother was blind and all sorts of things. And so that stuff fascinates me more than maybe the average person. But I was in D.C. About a year ago and was at Starbucks, and this woman was in front of me was paying for her coffee. And she was blind, and she pulled out a $5 bill or something and put it into this little electronic device, and it said 5. And then she handed it to the guy. And that's a problem I wouldn't even think to have to solve, that, you don't know the value of your currency. In the U.S., I guess it's one of the few countries where the currency is all the same dimension, despite its actual value. So, you don't know if you're holding a $20 bill or a $5 bill. Anyhow. I thought that was kind of fascinating. So she had this little thing. It was about the size of, a couple credit cards stacked together, and she just slid the dollar in there, and it spoke out what the value was.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's cool that technology can help, level the playing field, for lack of a better term, across things like that. That might be an interesting topic for another day. So moving on to today, we got a couple news stories we're going to talk about. We got a couple other things going on we're going to talk about. As always, if you are looking for past episodes of the show, you can go to techguy.tv. If you're looking for computer support, you should go to techguy.org. And there's volunteers standing by there who kindly spend all of their days just trying to help you solve your computer problems for no cost at all. And Jake has been spending a little bit of time here working on his own computer. So is this a brand new computer you just built, or is this a big upgrade that you were doing?
Yeah, it's a large upgrade. I replaced the case, power supply, water cooled it. I kept the motherboard and the processor and the memory. I bought 2 new NVIDIA 580s and went to SLI. And then, of course, I water cooled this whole system.
So I'm guessing this is primarily a gaming computer. This isn't the check the email computer?
No, sir. No.
What's your number one game on there? Is it Doom based on your avatar?
Well, I've been gaming since I was 5 years old. So, it kind of changes. Right now, Diablo 3 beta just came out, so I'm playing that a lot. I've been getting back into StarCraft 2.
Oh, man, really? I am addicted to StarCraft 2. It's the only game I play.
Oh, man.
We're going to have to talk after the show.
Yeah.
So
StarCraft 1, I put so many hours into, like, it's embarrassing to admit how many hours I put into the first one. I had not so many in the second one, job and family and stuff, but...
it's whenever Cameron goes to bed at night, that's kind of my, what's the term, my...
release.
Yeah, I guess that's not exactly what I was thinking of, but yeah, that's my guilty pleasure. I guess what I was trying to think of. Yeah, I spent a lot of times on StarCraft 2. I played StarCraft 1. I remember when I first played it. I mean, it was a hot game. What did it come out? 10, 15 years ago? More than that? I don't know.
Yeah, long time. It's actually the national sport of South Korea. Did you know that?
I didn't. StarCraft 2?
StarCraft in general, but now it's too. Yeah, national sport.
I know a lot of the big players are from South Korea, so I'm not surprised. Anyhow, so this is your StarCraft computer now. Let me
StarCraft, yeah.
There you go. Let me bring that up here. So tell me about the computer a little bit and what you put into it.
Well, like I said, it's the motherboard and processor are kind of old. It's quad core AMD. I think it's clocked at 3.6 gigahertz right now. It's not overclocked.
I'm not a big believer in overclocking. I've not had much luck with that.
Really?
Yeah, I'm kind of the old school, whatever it's rated at is what it's rated at. I guess if you're water cooling it, that's a completely different world, though. I've never built a water cooled machine, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's really overclocking. It's sort of a battle against heat. Like, you can pump as much voltage or whatever as you want through a chip. It's just a matter of, can you cool it enough to not melt the hardware? You know?
Yeah, I've seen a couple melted chips in my time, so that might be what makes me a little bit more hesitant.
Yeah, I've got a few under my belt as well that I've burnt up.
And it looks like you got a nice little neon light in there to make it look beautiful.
Sure.
So what did you tell me about some of the surprises you found whenever you were building a water-cooled machine?
Well, listen, it's very, very expensive. I think one of the cool things about building your own system is the money you save. You kind of, not only can you choose the best hardware instead of maybe the hardware that Gateway or Dell is going to make the most money off of, but you also save a lot of money doing it. Water cooling is very, very expensive.
Really only for the hardcore gamers.
Yeah, well, I mean, system, overclockers, for instance, system builders, tweakers, that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, you're going to get the best performance out of the machine, and it's much, much cooler. Like, I went from sitting at about, on my GPU, sitting at about 80 degrees Celsius down to 30 degrees Celsius at idle.
That's pretty good. That's a big difference.
It's a huge difference. But then just the water block, you see it in that picture right there, the water block coming off the GPU. This is before I put the second one in. That's $120 just for the water block.
Wow.
And, you've got it's a $500 card, or it was at the time. It's gone down since the 680 came out, but
if you're the kind of hardcore gamer who's going to buy a $500 video card to begin with, like my video card I think was $60. But right. If you're a hardcore gamer enough to buy a $500 video card, yeah, another $120 to make it perform really well.
Sure.
Yeah, it might not be out of the question.
I mean, I definitely recommend it. If you have the money to spend and you want to overclock and you want to,
Yeah, if you're enough of a geek that really turns you on.
And I definitely am, sir.
There's your numbers you posted there as well, the CPU temperature and motherboard temperature and so on. Went from 50 degrees to 50 degrees Celsius to 20 degrees Celsius. At
idle, yeah. At load is about 80 degrees and 40 degrees.
That's crazy. So you could really put a heavy load on it and it wouldn't get anywhere near where it would be just even at idle.
Right. It's the card's rated at 90 degrees Celsius, so I found that you start to get graphics anomalies and stability issues in the mid to late 80s. So you can't really get and run for a very long time at 90 degrees Celsius. But you still have a lot of headway there to overclock.
Yeah, right. All right.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely recommend it for people that are system builders and want to tweak it. It was a fun thing.
And you said also the other thing that, and I didn't know this either, that you have to put some sort of something in the water so that it prevents growth.
Yeah, well, it's just like a fish tank, really. I mean, you've got like a reservoir and a pump, and it's kind of moving around a lot. You can't really put what they call algae eaters inside. So you got to put copper additive into the water to keep algae from growing.
That's interesting. See, that's problems, again, that I would never think of having to solve.
Yeah.
Now, does that, over a period of time, do you have to keep putting more water into it, or does it just, is it a closed enough system that it doesn't evaporate?
It's sealed, but they say to check it on the front. You saw in that one picture, there's like a little kind of hole into the reservoir. You can see the water level if you need to add more or whatever. Gotcha.
And that was going to be one of my questions. If the pump stops working or something, is there an alarm that goes off, or do you just realize it when your computer overheats?
There's no alarm. I think you can probably get pumps that have alarms, that kind of thing, but no, it's just sort of, when you start to, I mean, my motherboard and processor have
alarms for heat.
Yeah.
And that's really what you're worried about.
Right.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's interesting. I'm going to have to look more into that. I mean, water-cooled systems have been around for a long time, but it's just not anything I've gotten into. And I would have thought over time it would have become much more cheaper to do it, much more economical to do it, but I guess it's still just such a small fraction of people who would be interested in doing that. It's not like, I don't believe there are any machines out on the market that you can buy just like that, right? The Alienware, do they have any water-cooled machines you can just pick up?
There's cheaper alternatives. There's sort of all-in-one systems that are just the radiator and the fan and reservoir all-in-one that goes out to CPU block for either Intel or AMD. That's just CPU water cooling. You can go off and then include your GPU in the loop, as it's called.
Mm-hmm. I saw a couple pictures a long time ago. I might have to try and look it up here. You've probably seen it, of a guy who built a machine and put it into a fish tank with some kind of non-conductive liquid in it to cool the whole thing.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
I think that's what you ought to do next.
Yeah, I thought about that. I mean, because
mineral oil.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? I missed it. No.
Yeah, mineral oil. Yeah. It's great until you have to maybe replace the RAM. And then it's going to be a mess.
Well, I don't know. Would it be that big of a deal?
I don't know.
You just pull it out, right?
I guess. And then put it where? You got a soggy motherboard.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a good idea. It doesn't seem like a good idea. Here, I found a video of it I'm going to put up here just for those watching. And for those listening on the audio podcast, the video podcast is available as well on iTunes and also techeye.tv. But so it looks like they just dropped this power supply into this mineral oil, and the cooling fan is trying very hard to rotate and is failing, I believe. But I guess that's not really important. And now they're showing the whole machine booting up. And now they're showing them filling it with mineral oil while it boots up. Which seems ridiculous. It's very strange. And I guess the question is then, this mineral oil, just like with your water-cooled system, has to be cooled itself somehow, right? I mean, it needs to flow around.
Yeah, well, the water cooling system I have, and the way most of them work, is it's just like a car. The water goes around in a loop, comes out of the pump into the CPU, then the GPU, then into the then through a radiator, and there's fans pushing through, just like you would the fins on your air-cooled CPU block. It's pushing the heat off those fins and then back into the reservoir.
So this thing has to have a radiator of some kind as well. We're just not seeing it. Oh, now I see a tube in there. Maybe that just wasn't shown in that first demonstration. Yeah, I think they have a radiator up on top of it that it must be going through. That's kind of crazy. That's very crazy, actually, the mineral oil thing. And it looks like they have do-it-yourself systems you can buy at their website. That's interesting. Of course, what would suck is if that thing sprung a leak. Even more so than if your system sprung a leak. If you have however many gallons of mineral oil sitting there.
Yeah, that would be unfortunate.
That would be very unfortunate.
Have you seen the overclocking video? The AMD bulldozer just came out.
Yes, I did see that. I think we had that on the show a couple of times ago.
That's right. That's right, you did. And they're using liquid nitrogen for that.
Right. So, that's a little harder to come by, I think.
You don't have any?
Not on hand. Of course, I don't have much mineral oil either. So Yeah. All right. So moving on here. Another video that caught my eye here recently, and I suspect you saw it. Google released this video. Bring it up on the screen here, and it's Google Project Glass one day. And basically, the idea behind it here is that it's like a heads-up display. You have these glasses that you wear, and on the glasses, there's a little projection of information like the weather, your friend requests, your text messages, and they're showing you interacting with it by speaking to it. Someone sends you a text message now, and you speak to reply to it. And people are joking about it that you're going to look like you're talking to yourself even more than what people do now when you really don't even have a Bluetooth headset in. And it shows doing mapping and so on, and this is all heads-up display. And this particular picture here is a good example of when they showed that map right in the middle of your vision. You've got to think that's going to be a really good safety hazard. It's an interesting idea, and everyone's been looking for something like this for a long time. I like it. I'd love to have a heads-up display. What I would really like, I'm really bad remembering people's names. I'd like to have a little camera that faces out, has a facial recognition, and it sees my wife, and it'll come up and it'll say her name's Heather. Little pop-ups so that I remember. That sort of thing would come in handy.
You forgot your wife's name?
Well, that was as an example. It's not often I remember her name, especially her last name. But that sort of thing I could see as useful. But there's a fine line here between it being really annoying, especially everything Google is powered by ads or paid for by ads. So you're going to have little ads popping up in your vision as well, because that won't get annoying at all. As I walk by the pizza shop, there's like a giant arrow in my vision pointing me over to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so someone created this this parody video of a of someone who has these Google goggles, not goggles, excuse me, Google glasses. And it's kind of funny. One of the things, I'll have to fast forward a little bit to it here. One of the things I thought was really funny in it is that they showed him walking down the street and the thing popping up. Now it's not going to load right now, but they showed him walking down the street and the thing popping up with some instructions or text messages or whatever, and then he starts walking into people, and it was pretty well done.
Yeah, it's funny. I listened to Howard Stern. They were talking about it on there, and the guy was like, "You know what? In New York City, somebody's going to get run over."
Yeah, seriously. And it doesn't even have to be New York City. Anywhere.
Have you seen the Windows parody?
No.
The Windows glasses parody?
No.
That is hilarious. That's a fantastic one. There's a lot of these parodies popped up, but the Windows one I think is my favorite.
This one's pretty funny too, saying someone's 402 feet away when they're right in front of you, and it came up and it said the weather's raining, so he grabbed an umbrella, and then it's beautiful out. It's just showing how wonderfully inaccurate it is. Anyhow, it's interesting. I'll have to look up the Google Glasses Windows parody, huh?
Yeah, it's great.
For some reason, my internet today is just having all kinds of problems. I don't know why it's running so slow. Here we go. Alright, so here's the Windows parody. So it's showing check your antivirus status, updates are ready to install, your low power, installing updates. Are you sure you want to permanently delete this banana? You don't have permission to access. Oh, that's pretty good. And then it ends with the blue screen. That's pretty good. I like that. Yeah, that's pretty good. And I'm going to put the links to these videos in the show notes. That'll be at techguy.tv here in about a week. So you can go there and find the links to everything we talk about, including those. Whoops, I just put that under water-cooled. Let me put that in the right place. That is funny, Jake. I like that a lot. That's better than the other one I saw, for sure. So, Yeah, the other story someone posted on Tech Support Guy. I want to give him credit. Let me see who posted this first. Ecom did. Oh, and Ecom's in the chat room. Boy, I'm glad I looked to give him credit. I really didn't remember it was him. Speaking of forgetting names, and he posted this in the chat room. Excuse me, in the on the website. The Japanese ATMs are to use palm readers in place of cash cards. The Ogaki Kairosuko Bank, and that's pronounced exactly right, said that the new machines will allow customers to withdraw and deposit cash and check their balances by placing their hand on a scanner and entering their birth date plus a PIN number. The ATMs would initially be installed at 10 banks as well as a drive-through ATM and 2 mobile banks from September. And they announced that the slogan is going to be, "You are your cash card." One reason the bank decided to use the new technology was the massive earthquake and tsunami that ravaged the country's northeast coast last year. Many who escaped the tsunami lost their homes, personal possessions, and all forms of identification. So they were unable to access their bank accounts until weeks or months later. So using this, even if you were naked and had no identification or nothing on you, you just put your palm now, I said your palm, on the scanner and type in your birth date and your PIN number, and you have full access to everything. What do you think about that, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Now there's a rash of people having their hands cut off. So that
it's funny that you jumped to that too. That was my reply in the thread. I said, does that mean the mafia will be going around cutting off hands?
I would hope not, but I mean, I'm trying to think of how to beat that, right? Anytime you have a new technology, people are going to try to figure out how to beat it. And I'm thinking that, or maybe if you're a nice mafia guy, you can sort of like wrap the hand in wax or something like that and make sort of a mold or...
Well, and I know I've seen on Mythbusters and other very reliable sources that for fingerprint readers, you can lift fingerprints from Coke cans and things like that, and on some fingerprint readers, it doesn't read the 3 dimensions, so it'll actually use that pretty easily. And in other cases, there are ways to, like you said, create a mold of it, even sometimes without the other person knowing that you've done it. Now, getting a palm print would be a lot harder, because I don't usually lay my flat palm on anything. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I don't think we're going to see anything like that around here for a very long time. I think we're going to see using your phone as identification and to transfer money and to pay for things much sooner than we'll ever see palm prints. But it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I like the new technology at least, people pushing the envelope.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're solving a real problem. I mean, that was a genuine problem that needed to be solved, so we'd like to see that.
Indeed.
All right, great. Well, we're going to try and keep this show a little shorter than most, and we're going to try and do the next one. Actually, I'm going to ask you right here and put you on the spot, Jake. Check your calendar for Sunday the 20th. And the second, usually we do this as, Ecom and our regular viewers know, the second Sunday of the month. We're going to try and do this the third Sunday because the second Sunday is Mother's Day. And we all need to go see our mothers. So the third Sunday in May is going to be the 20th. So we're going to aim for 1 o'clock Eastern for our show then. If you want to watch live, go to techguy.tv at that time. Right now, tentatively Sunday the 20th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And you can tune in like Ecom did. And looks like we had a guest or two that stopped by as well. We're also going to be working on a couple of other videos. I've had a couple requests for tutorial-type videos rather than just the tech news and us, gabbing back and forth. So I'm going to be trying to do a little video about Windows 8, and I have a couple other ideas. But if you have any ideas of things that you'd like to see a tutorial-type video done, preferably something computer-related, because that's the only thing I know about, that would be great. Send me a message, reply to this video, reply on the site, whatever. Let us know. We'd be glad to do that. Anything else you want to mention, Jake?
No, sir. I think we're good.
All right. I appreciate you being with us. You don't have a blog up just yet for you to try and pimp out. You have a Twitter feed or anything else you want to try and give folks?
No, I don't do the Twitter too much. I mean, I do have a Twitter. It's Earwax and Toast.
Earwax and Toast. Do I even want to ask where the handle came from?
Well, a long time ago, I was doing, different names and stuff, and this is back in when AIM first came out, and ICQ, that kind of thing.
I remember ICQ.
Some screen name 2539 or whatever, and I just thought for a second, I want to come up with the most grotesque combination of things that nobody else in the world will ever choose. And I have never been earwax and toast too.
You know, that's nice. I'm tech guy wherever I can be, but unfortunately there's a lot of tech guys out there. So I need to sign up early to be able to get that handle on a lot of sites. So sometimes I end up being, you know, tech guy and toast, and it's confusing to remember which ones are which. Well, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it, and we'll see you again soon. Have a good one.
Thanks a lot.